I'm Tom Carper, a United States Senator from Delaware. I'm privileged to be here with my colleague Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut, and a number of folks representing veterans organizations, people who served our country. We're happy to have all of you here. Before I was a U.S. Senator, I used to be Governor. I was Commander-in-Chief of the Delaware National Guard for 8 years. And before that, I'd served as a naval flight officer, 5 years in a hot war in Southeast Asia, and later for 18 years as a P-3 aircraft mission commander, right up till the end of the Cold War. Went back to Vietnam 4 weeks ago, this week with the President, to reach back in time and to look forward to the future between our country and the country of Vietnam, where many of us had served. My dad was a chief petty officer in World War II. A bunch of my uncles served on active duty in World War II. One of them was killed in a kamikaze attack on his aircraft carrier in 1994. My grandmother was a Gold Star mother. I had another uncle's a Marine in the Korean War. For my family, the military runs deep. And the same is true with Senator Blumenthal and his family. Probably the same is true with a number of the folks standing up here with me. When my dad came back from at the end of World War II, he was entitled to the Veterans Benefits, the GI Bill. And in fact, 72 years ago, I think almost to the day, the GI Bill was created for my dad's generation. And the story that I remember hearing from my dad when he came back after the end of the war, he wasn't sure what he wanted to do, but he was eligible for the GI Bill, and apparently got some training to do body repair on cars. And so that's what he learned to do. And he went to work in Beckley, West Virginia at a place called Burleson Oldsmobile. And his job was when people were in car wrecks, his job, along with his colleagues at the Burleson Oldsmobile, was to fix the cars if they could be fixed. One day he was working on a car insured by Nationwide Insurance. And the folks, one of the claims adjuster from Nationwide Insurance was talking to my dad. He said, well, you seem pretty smart for a guy that's just out here fixing wrecked cars. And maybe you someday, if you wanted to, you could come to work at Nationwide and become a claims adjuster. And lo and behold, a year or so later, my father took his training from the GI Bill. He translated that into a job going to work for Nationwide Insurance. And 15, 20 years later, he, back in Columbus, Ohio, was running the school where they trained all of Nationwide's claims adjusters from all over the country. Not bad for a guy with a high school degree from Shady Springs, West Virginia, and who spent a lot of his life in the Navy as well. I came out of after active duty in 1973, right at the end of the Vietnam War. Moved from California to Delaware, got an MBA on the GI Bill, and people ask me why I've had some success in my life. I always say my sister and I picked the right parents. Not a lot of money, a lot of money, fortune, and fame, but good values, hard work, a lot of value of our faith. And the other thing is the Navy. The Navy. Had a chance to get an undergraduate degree. I don't know if anybody graduated from college in my family before I did. And the Navy helped make that possible, and then going to graduate school at the end of the war and get an MBA. And the other key to my success, Richard, is I surrounded myself by people smarter than me. My wife says it's not hard to find them. That's a little humor, folks. So you can smile here. It's not against the law. That's a little bit of a personal background I wanted to share with you. But 72 years ago, today, 72 years ago this year, the GI Bill was created and signed into law. This landmark legislation sent, I'm told, some 8 million World War II veterans to our nation's colleges. They went to colleges, they went to universities, they went to vocational schools, they went into job training programs like the one that my dad apparently went into. I can think of no better way to honor the legacy of the original GI Bill than by quickly bringing up for a vote the legislation that Senator Blumenthal and I, Dick Durbin, and a number of others have co-sponsored that would close what we believe is a dangerous loophole that allows for nonprofit schools to count Department of Veterans Affairs and Department of Defense education dollars as non-federal funds, which clearly evades the intent of Congress. Since 2009, more than 1.5 million service members, veterans, and their families have financed their education using post-GI Bill dollars, and millions more will take advantage of the hard-earned benefit in their years to come. My generation in Vietnam, we got going to school $250 a month. When we welcome home our next group of National Guardsmen and women from Afghanistan coming home later this year, they'll return to a GI Bill that does this for them. This is what they get. You want to go to University of Delaware, Del State, Wilmington University, Del Tech, no tuition. It's free. Tuition, books, tutoring, you need it, you get it. It's free. All that, and plus you get a $1,500 a month housing allowance. $1,500. We got $250 a month. And I don't begrudge them any of this. If the GI coming back from overseas or whatever is not eligible or doesn't want to use the GI Bill, already has a degree, doesn't want to use it, their spouse can receive that benefit. And if the spouse doesn't want to use it, their dependent children can use it. What a great benefit. What an incredible benefit for our servicemen and women. But during my, I'd say the span from I think 2009 to today, some 40% of the post-GI Bill tuition benefits that have been spent out have gone to for-profit sector. And as questions continue to be raised about these institutions' graduation, defaults, and job replacement rates, I just want to take a minute and say there's some folks in the nonprofit sector who do a very good job of educating our returning GIs. Very good job. They help get them the skills that they need, the education that they need, and help place them in to jobs, good-paying jobs that they end up with not without a debt and the ability to support themselves and their family. However, that's not too often. That is not the case. Many of the top recipients of the post-GI Bill, post-9/11 GI Bill funds are currently under investigation for deceptive and misleading recruiting or other possible violations of state and federal law. Investigations have also been undertaken by bipartisan states attorneys general, by the Department of Justice, Security and Exchange Commission, the Federal Trade Commission, and the Consumers Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB. I don't believe, again, as I said, they're not all bad actors. Some are very good actors, but too many of them fall short of the mark. And that's why we have the 90-10 rule. And if you happen to be in this country today, a nonprofit institution, a for-profit institution, offering a high-quality education, you ought to be able to attract non-federal revenues because students and employers will find the education you offer is valuable to them, and they'll spend some of their own money. We call that a market test. But we've seen too many bad actors take advantage of a loophole in the law that makes it possible for them to obtain over 90%. This is the colleges and universities, some of the training schools, most of them for-profit, but a loophole that makes it possible for them to obtain over 90% of their revenues from taxpayers by recruiting our veterans and our service members. Holly Petraeus, the wife of retired General David Petraeus, noted this is Holly Petraeus' words. And I think she might still be with CFPB. I think she might still be with them. But these are her words. This, quoting her, this gives for-profit colleges an incentive to see service members as nothing more than dollar signs in uniform and to use aggressive marketing to draw them in. Close quote. Military and veterans education dollars are federal dollars, and they should be counted as such. And I'm a big proponent of using common sense to address problems. I also like using market forces, and the 90-10 rule does both. Common sense and harnesses market forces to make sure we get what our taxpayers are asking for and what our veterans need. Passing the legislation that this man and I and Richard Durbin and others have co-sponsored, which currently has the support of close to 30 of our colleagues, all Democrats, sadly, and I'm hopeful we'll soon have some company from the other side of the aisle to support a common sense approach because it will, one, protect veterans, and two, it will protect American taxpayers. So this is two. Protect our veterans, protect our taxpayers. And I think it ought to be a pretty easy fix. It hasn't been easy so far, but I think we're gaining a full set of steam, and I think it's time for colleagues, not just from our side of the aisle, but from both sides of the aisle, to take action. One of the people asked me, in fact, somebody just asked me in a meeting, we had a bunch of educators here from Delaware today, and I had a chance to spend some time with them before I came here. One of them asked me the question, what do you like about your job? What do you like most about your job? And I said, Richard Blumenthal. I like serving with this man right here. And they said, well, what else do you like? And I said, I like getting things done. I like getting things done. I like to help people. I love to help people. And I don't like, I'm not a big one for partisanship. I like to work across the aisle. Just want to get things done. This is an area where we can get some good things done for taxpayers, and we get some good things done for our veterans who deserve and have earned our help. Nobody works harder than this man right here, respected by both sides of the aisle. Nobody cares more about veterans than Richard Blumenthal. And I'm pleased to be his wingman in this endeavor to look out for our veterans and our taxpayers. Richard Blumenthal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Nice round of applause. Go ahead. Standing ovation. What is that? A standing ovation.
I'm delighted to have that standing ovation for the remarks of my colleague and friend, Tom Carper. And one thing that we have in common, we're both veterans, but he is really an extraordinarily distinguished and able representative of all our veterans. And we also have in common that we married above ourselves.
Way up. Our commanders-in-chief, our wives.
And that's not humor. Let me just say, this 90-10 loophole is really an insult to veterans and taxpayers. The idea is that 10% of this money is supposed to come from non-taxpayer sources, non-federal money. And the folks who game this system are able to persuade veterans and use them as targets of opportunity so that they circumvent that 10% requirement. They get it from federal sources, other federal money besides the Title IV benefits, and they, in effect, they exploit and game the GI benefits bill. Not the veterans, but the for-profit colleges and other institutions that are able to, in effect, game the system. This measure closes that loophole. The measure that we've proposed, the Military and Veterans Education Protection Act, and I am proud to be a co-sponsor with Senator Carper leading this effort, joined by so many of our colleagues, led by him and Senator Durbin, but unfortunately no Republicans. The reason is a mystery. I don't know the reason, but I am going to be leaving here within a minute or two, going over to the floor of the United States Senate and seeking some of my colleagues. I know they are on the floor because a group of us are speaking on the Veterans First bill. And that bill provides a great opportunity to improve education and health care and accountability within the VA for our veterans and our taxpayers. And I think this measure, equally so, should be bipartisan. That one is. Why not this one? It should be bipartisan. And I know that Tom Carper, of all people, focuses on crossing the aisle, enlisting Republicans in good causes, making efforts bipartisan when they serve the interests of taxpayers and veterans. And my hope is that we will, in fact, enlist our colleagues in this effort. To put it real bluntly, so many veterans have become targets of opportunity. They become marks for the con artists and scammers who misuse them and taxpayer money. And that's why we need to close this loophole. The resources going to veterans are not unending. This loophole has turned into a waterfall for the waste of taxpayer resources. We need to close the loophole and stop that waste. And I am really pleased to be here with the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, the Student Veterans of America, all the veterans who are here today and who are helping us to advance this cause. Thank you to Tom Carper.
Thank you. All right. Derek, come on up here, Derek. Derek, Director of Policy for the Student Veterans of America. Thank you. And you have an MBA, don't you?
Yes, sir.
God, I like you. And where did you serve? Where did you serve in the military?
I was in the Army for 4.5 years. Served overseas in Germany and Afghanistan, and then ended up back here in D.C.
Good. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for your service.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Derek Fronebarger. I'm the Director of Policy for Student Veterans of America, so thanks for having us here today. SVA serves as the leading voice for veterans in higher education, and it is critical for that voice to be heard on this important issue on 9010. With over 1,400 chapters and representing over 550,000 student veterans across the country, SVA helps turn yesterday's warriors into tomorrow's leaders by helping veterans harness the transformative power of higher education. First off, I'd like to thank Senator Carper and Senator Blumenthal for their diligent work on the issue of the 90-10 loophole. The 90-10 loophole serves as one of the biggest roadblocks preventing veterans from realizing the true potential of higher education. Too many veterans are regarded as walking dollar signs by bad actors in the space. Too many veterans are misled by the value of education programs and tricked into taking courses they don't need. The term 90-10 loophole is not even appropriate for what it does to veterans. A more adequate term would be the GI Bill loophole. I say this because this loophole incentivizes for-profit schools to prey on veterans and their GI Bill to increase their profit margin. We know that these predatory schools are not the best schools for veterans. Many times, veterans are lied to, cheated, and ultimately end up with a degree worth less than the paper it is printed on. Most of us, around 2/3, are first-generation college students. Many veterans do not have the support of family members to ask which school is best for them. We do not have a working transition model to help educate us on how to college. Every high school student has a guidance counselor to help them choose which is the best university for them. Veterans, on the other hand, often rely on marketing, TV advertisements, and what our friends say in deciding which university we should go to. What we see is that good schools spend more on educating their students than on marketing their programs. The idea of institutions using veterans as cash cows is sadly not new. The original GI Bill had the same issues. Fly-by-night schools, as they were called, preyed upon veterans returning from World War II. Because of this, regulations were established to ensure veterans are not cheated out of their benefits. Unfortunately, predatory schools found new loopholes. This became obvious with the Corinthian College collapse. We cannot let history repeat itself. If we do, we are not only failing our veteran population, but assisting an industry that has time after time shown that veterans are only a means to an end. SVA imagines a world where the potential of a veteran in this country is not defined by an ad online, but by their own dreams for their future. We know veterans are already standing on the cusp of realizing this goal. We know this because SVA not only leads in assisting student veterans, but also in research about student veteran success. Our Million Records project was the first study in decades to measure the academic outcomes for student veterans, and our upcoming INVEST project will be the most comprehensive study ever done on the post-9/11 GI Bill. We know that student veterans are more likely to graduate than their non-veteran counterparts. We also know that a student veteran starting at a for-profit university is drastically less likely to graduate than a veteran starting at a public or private university. If we do not close the 90-10 loophole, these statistics will only get worse. We at Student Veterans of America have continued to push this issue and are glad to see there are some champions on the Hill that are moving for a 90-10 vote. SVA will continue to support student veterans any way we can by helping turn yesterday's warriors into today's scholars and tomorrow's leaders. Thank you for your time. I'd also like to bring up our friends from IAVA. Thanks a lot. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. Good afternoon. I'd like to extend profound appreciation on behalf of IAVA's 425,000 members, Senator Carper and his staff for their leadership on this issue. Also to Senator Blumenthal, Walter Ochenko and Kerry Wofford here from Vets Education Success, who've been leading the charge on this for a long time, and some good friends of ours at IAVA. Also to Derek from SVA, appreciate your help on this issue as well. And our student veterans in attendance behind me, and who also, two of them are actually IAVA members here that have traveled a long way to be here, so we appreciate your effort in making it here to tell your story. We've also got some student veterans from IAVA headquarters here standing in the back. I'd love to introduce you to them if you're interested. I can tell you why we're doing this is that we think it's critically important to defend the education benefits that our veterans have earned with the hope that they in turn do the same when it comes to their turn. Education's the best tool the veterans have to transition to civilian life and develop the skills to find a new career. IAVA is committed to ensuring that every veteran can take advantage of their full education benefits. That means refusing to allow predatory for-profit colleges from targeting GI Bill benefits and failing to deliver on promised quality education. It also means opposing cuts to post-9/11 GI Bill funding at every turn. The men and women who've served signed a blank check made out to the USA for an amount of up to and including their life. And we need to defend their GI Bill. It's time for the Senate to defend the GI Bill today by passing Senator Carper's Military and Veterans Education Protection Act to close the 90-10 loophole. We also need to stop cuts to this critical education benefit. Senators Blumenthal and Carper are also very right that this is not a partisan issue. It shouldn't be a partisan issue. IAVA is working hard with our colleagues behind me and in front of me to make sure that we have a more diverse set of co-sponsors for this important legislation. As we say in the veteran community, the only right and left are our battle buddies standing next to us, behind us, and in front of us. So we appreciate you being here, and we appreciate your support in passing this critical legislation. And we've got Walter Ochinko from Vets Education Success.
Walter. All right, Walter. Thanks, Walter.
Hi, my name is Walter Ochinko. I'm with Veterans Education Success. Hi, my name is Walter Ochinko. I'm with Veterans Education Success. First of all, I wanted to thank Matthew Boulay from the Veterans Student Loan Relief Fund, who's standing here in the audience. He actually provided the funding to bring 4 veterans to Washington to lobby on the Hill today to get more bipartisan support for 90-10. So why is closing the loophole so important? I think you're going to hear the stories of the 4 veterans that we've brought to D.C. One of them, Mark, went to Colorado Technical University. He was enrolled in a program that was supposed to be business administration. When he got his degree, it was general studies. It wasn't business administration. They didn't offer a business management degree. Isaac Walker went to DeVry. He had the same kind of bait and switch. He wanted computer networking. They actually enrolled him in a program that was business administration. Matt Mitchell went to Brown Mackey to get a nursing degree. They lied to him about the accreditation of the school. And Howard Tullar went to ITT Tech and found the quality was just totally lacking. So why are veterans going to for-profit schools? Because the schools are actually misleading them. They're lying to them about things like accreditation, about quality, about the programs that they're actually enrolled in. So I think, hearing the stories from these veterans will put a face to the problem, and that's why we thought it was so important to bring them here today. So I just want to turn the podium over to them so they can tell you their stories firsthand.
Could you tell us in what order people will be speaking?
Yes. First, we're going to hear from Mark. I'm sorry, Matthew. I've had trouble with the names all day. And then we're going to hear from Howard. And then we're going to hear from Isaac. And then from... yes.
The best one.
So...
Please.
Good afternoon. My name is Matt Mitchell. I'm a 15-year veteran of the Indiana National Guard, deployed twice, both to northern Iraq as a combat engineer. After I got back in 2011, my civilian job was to work with in the automotive industry as a finance manager, which is essentially sales. Due to some of the difficulties I had when I came back, I was unable to continue doing that work. Once I kind of got my feet back under me, I decided that going to school was going to be the right option. I'm kind of a unique veteran to this particular subject because not only did I attend a for-profit school, but prior to going to that for-profit school, I worked as a recruiter for 8 months. With my sales background, I was heavily recruited to be a recruiter for ITT Technical Institute. And over those 8 months, felt more pressure in those 8 months than I did in my entire time in the car business. I would like to compare it basically to a sweatshop of workers pounding the phones, making phone call after phone call after phone call to try to get people in the doors. There was unspoken quotas of how many interviews you needed to provide and how many of those you needed to close and get into that financial aid office. There was an especially level of excitement whenever a veteran was one of those appointments because their push for financial aid was, what do you care? You're not the one paying for it. What do you care what it costs? The veterans that were coming through the doors were widely misled as to what they were getting into. They were told that they could get jobs, their credits would transfer. things of that nature, and it simply wasn't true. The accreditation is something that these for-profit schools like to use as their platform. We're accredited by the ACICS, and that's probably the main one that most of these are accredited with. That is a national accreditation, and it's very easy to fall into those guidelines when they come one time a year to do an investigation, or not investigation, an audit, and you're prepared for that audit because you know they're coming. You can fall in line with not saying the terminology they want you to use by using other terminology that implies the same thing, and that's what most of my training was in regards to, was how to say things that you're not saying. So after I decided that that was no longer an ethical position for me, I decided that I wanted to go into nursing. I was a combat lifesaver and did some of that overseas and felt that I was good at it. The wait at their traditional school to get into a nursing program is 2 to 3 years. So Brown Mackie College approached me and said, well, we can get you in right now, and in a year and 9 months you can have your RN degree. Coming from the background I came from, I asked a lot of questions that probably normally wouldn't be asked as far as accreditation. They said, absolutely, we're accredited, no problem getting a job. I said, well, my main focus is that I want to work with veterans at the VA. I want to be a nurse at the VA. Absolutely, we have veterans that work at the VA. I found out about 6 months into my program that they did have an accreditation nationally with ACICS for their education side. As far as nursing, they had a provisional status with the state board. So they weren't fully accredited by the state board, but they had a provisional status and were under review to see if that would become permanent. We were told not to worry about this. It was no big deal. We were the ones that were going to bring their board pass rate up, and then they would get their full accreditation. We'd have no issues. My class of 12, 95% of them did pass boards. That did not provide the provisional to go to a full accreditation. In fact, the school has just announced that they're shutting down in 2 years. I was able to get a job there in Missouri where I went, but have since moved to Baton Rouge, Louisiana with my family. Upon trying to get a license in Louisiana, because they are not part of the nursing license compact states, their requirements are regional accreditation for all their schools, which my school did not have. So even though I had worked at a level 1 trauma center in the ICU, can do everything a nurse can do, they did not want to give me a temporary license and go to full licensing. After a lot of fight, was able to get a temporary license, and now it's still being reviewed and having to provide document after document. I haven't worked in 3 weeks and might have to move my family back up to Missouri where I can actually work after just being there 10 weeks. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell. Yeah. Next up, Howard.
Hey, how's everybody doing? My name's Howard Tullar. I served in the Army for 6 years as a combat soldier. I did a total of 27 months in Iraq. I attended ITT Technical Institute for almost 2 years, where I was pursuing an associate's degree in computer networking systems. I chose to attend ITT Tech based on their claims that they were an excellent school and they had the ability to guarantee that I could find a position after my degree was complete. Instead, I received subpar instruction and doctored grades. Almost all the instructors that I was assigned during my time at ATT used the same methodology in their instructions. They would come into the classroom, they would read over a slideshow, they would give us an assignment in the book, and they called this teaching. Unfortunately, I was unable to learn this way with this fashion, so I went to the director of the school several times making complaints about the level of education I was receiving. Nothing was ever done. They told me they would attempt to fix it, but there was never any attempt at all. I seldom felt that I had an adequate understanding of the material I was learning. But anyway, they continued to give me passing grades, whether I understood the material or not. Once I got past the initial introductory courses, I was pretty much lost. I couldn't understand the more complex parts of the program because I hadn't been taught the basic parts of the program. After several months and numerous attempts to rectify the situation, I chose to withdraw from ITT Tech. There was no way I could complete a degree with no understanding of the subject matter. I then attempted to attend college at a local community college, and I was informed that none of my credits were any good. They said that ITT Tech's accreditation was not valid, and they weren't willing to transfer those. I honestly feel I've wasted a large portion of my GI Bill benefits which I earned, and ITT has stolen it and given me nothing but worthless credits in return. I simply ask that we review the processes of these colleges and the accreditation process, not just ITT Tech, but all of these for-profit predatory schools that take advantage of unaware veterans. It's essential that we implement better safeguards to protect our veterans who are returning home. Thank you. Next we have Isaac coming up. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Isaac Walker. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran. I served 3.5 years. Okay, I served 3.5 years in the United States Navy. I chose to go to DeVry University in Waukegan, Illinois. They basically sold me and told me that I could get my degree in about 3 years. I signed up for the Networking and Communications Management program. A year into the program, I noticed that my program was business and not networking and communications. It took them another year to get that changed, and after that was changed, the computer programming at the school that was 10 minutes from my house stopped doing computer stuff, and I had to go to Chicago, attend a campus in Chicago, which took me 2 hours after I worked an 8-hour shift. So it took me 2 hours in rush hour traffic to get to school. At this campus, numerous times I went to the financial aid office to find out about their scholarships and grants, and essentially I was told after numerous trips that's something that I'll have to do on my own. At this point, I kind of just stopped going to that school because I kind of felt like I wasted my time. That's pretty much all I have. Next up is Mark.
Hello, my name is Mark Legoski. Before I explain what happened at CTU, first I'm going to explain to you why I went to CTU. Back in 2001, I got diagnosed with cardiomyopathy, which is enlargement of the heart, and my heart function was only at 9%. The doctors then told me that I would need to slow down sooner or later. What I do for a living is I paint aircraft, plus I do interior special wood finishing and that. So after learning this, I decided to, I applied for some management jobs at some of the larger companies, even though I had more experience than most people that work for them or anything else. They all wanted that little piece of paper that says you have a business management degree or something else. So I enrolled into CTU, and I explained to them that what I needed was a business management degree, at least an associate's. They told me no problem, they have it. They enrolled me. I took the courses, and shortly after getting done the first set of courses and was supposed to get my associates in business management, I decided to also take associates in accounting. As I told them, I was going to look forward to doing a BA and doing that in business administration with a backing on finance. So I asked them if I'd have enough money in my student loans, all that stuff, to be able to do all this. They told me yes. So I said, great. Well, in the midst of doing my accounting degree, I finally got what was supposed to be an associate's in business management, and it read associates in general study. I called them up. I said, you've made a mistake. I didn't take general studies. I took business management. They sent me another diploma. It again read associate's degree in general study. I called them up again. I said, look it. I said, this isn't what I asked for. I said, this isn't the course I took. And they said, yes, it is. We don't actually have an associate's in business management. What we gave you was a general study with a concentration on business management. I said, this doesn't do me any good. I said, well, all right, I'm halfway through my associates in accounting. I said, I'll finish that. I said, then I'll move on to my BA in business administration with a concentrate on finance. I'll forget about this general studies since I have enough financing. They said, you have more than enough. Halfway through my BA, they told me I had no more financing. So there I sat with, no business management, and I didn't get a BA. So in the long run, I'm basically still doing what I was doing before, and I'm still painting airplanes for a small company and doing all that when, I should be managing a company. My wife also went through CTU. She went to do IT with security. She signed right up for a BA, and they told her halfway through she would receive an associate's in IT. She was like, great. Halfway through, she didn't receive nothing. She got all the way back through, almost through her BA. They told her she ran out of financing as well, and she asked about her associate so she could at least find a better job than what she had and be able to afford to be able to finish her BA, and they told her they no longer gave that anymore. All they gave out was the BA. So basically we got strapped with a lot of debt and really nothing to show for it. That's about all I have to say.
Before we wrap up here, I just want to, first of all, just say our thanks to each one of you for joining us today, sharing your stories with us, and providing the kind of leadership that we need on this particular issue. About 9 months ago, at the other end of the Capitol, in the House of Representatives, we had a special visitor from Italy. Actually, I think he's from Argentina, but works in Italy now in a place called the Vatican. And it's Pope Francis. And Pope Francis talked to a joint session of the Congress, and he was terrific message. I'm not Catholic, but afterwards I told him, I said, you'd make a great Presbyterian, Pope Francis. And anyway, one of the things that he reminded all of us of as we were there that day in a national TV audience, he said, greatest commandment, maybe one of the two greatest commandments of all, was to treat other people the way we want to be treated. Love thy neighbor as thyself. And I think that applies to almost everything that we do. And I think as we consider those men and women who raise the right hand, take an oath to defend our country and Constitution in peacetime and in war, and been willing to put their lives on the line and really to sacrifice their lives if necessary. We said to them, when this is all over and you come home, we're going to make sure that we treat you right. If you want to go to school, we'll try to help you do that through the GI Bill. If you need help with health care, we'll help you with that. If you want to buy a house, we'll help you with mortgage, lending guaranteed loan through the VA. We'll do all kinds of things to help you. And a lot of times around Memorial Day and around Veterans Day, we fly flags and we say to people, we really appreciate what you've done. Veterans, thank you for your service. It's important that we put our money where our mouth is. And it's especially important that when we do that, that the money that we allocate, that we appropriate, actually goes for the purpose that it was intended. The idea behind the GI Bill and tuition assistance is to make sure that if people have already separated from the military, or someday when they do, that they will be able to provide for themselves and their family. They will have the requisite skills, not just their experience in the military, but the requisite skills to find a good job, keep a good job, provide for themselves, put food on the table, a roof over their heads, education for their kids. That's the way we would want to be treated if we were in their shoes. And my friends, we have not been doing that. There's close to 30 members of the United States Senate who said we should change that, and we should change that by making clear that 90-10 means 90-10. 90-10 means 90-10. And that no more than 10% of, no more than 90% of a university or college, trade school can come from the federal government. And if they're not good enough to attract another 10% from just being a good program, offering good programs, then they should not be offering education to our veterans. That's what this is all about. And we're not going to quit. We're not going to quit. And this is the right thing to do. We're going to keep pushing it. We're going to push Democrats. We're going to push Republicans. And with veterans like this telling their story, man, you listen to these stories, you know we got to do something. And we're going to do something, and hopefully they'll have Republicans and Democrats to join in this cause. And when we adjourn for Christmas at the end of this year, we'll have actually done our jobs. This is our job, to make sure that people are treated fairly, especially our veterans and our taxpayers. And I think for a couple of reporters might want to talk to some of us, some of our veterans when we adjourn here. But please, if y'all could stay around for a few minutes, some folks may come up and want to chat with you a little bit. So do that. For everybody else who's joined us, and especially for our veterans, let's give these guys a nice round of applause, please. Thank you.
Get out the life preserver.